Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic, and good morning, Asgard, episode 24 of the Good Morning Asgard podcast. And by the way, I listened back to some of the podcast episodes, and now it makes a lot more sense as to why I believe it was Andrew Hoyle was like, volume! Because for some reason, the very beginning of the audio clips like crazy. There's some random boost that happens at the very beginning, and I just saw it happen again. It's now leveled out, so everything should be sounding fine now. But now it just makes a lot more sense to me as to why there was a volume issue. And so I apologize to anyone listening, especially if you're listening on headphones, for those first few seconds, because I have no idea what is going on and why that is happening the way that it is. But anyway, welcome back to the Good Morning Asgard podcast. This is going to be one of the last episodes of the summer. I have no idea why. What am I talking about? Of course I know why. Obviously, it's the last full week that I am having of summer, and so therefore we are going to finish up this week. I have no idea exactly when the episodes are going to be from this point forward. Obviously, we'll have an episode today, episode on Wednesday as well. We'll have the OMB Report episode on the OMB Report channel over on Thursday, and that will all still be the same. But as far as once the school year starts next week, I don't know exactly when these morning streams will be, or rather the Good Morning Asgard stream. I'm trying to see if I can make it work as a Saturday morning stream, but be on the lookout for that if that decision is made or not. Last year, we just left it on just as a summer show, but we'll go ahead and see exactly what we're going to do with that. But hello, everyone. A bunch of people are going to see. I don't know. My brain is just so baby Thor, I think, picked something up from daycare. And then, of course, as a parent of a child at daycare, you just get everything that they get. So I've been kind of out of the loop myself just a little bit. And anyway, thank you all for being here. Let's get on to the actual show itself, and let's say hello to some people. We got a ton of people here this morning. Thank you for being here. Make sure you smash that like button, please, wherever you are watching, if that is an option for you, whether you're watching on YouTube, Periscope, D Live, or on Odyssey. Thank you all. JKD76, what's going on? Good morning to you. He's a member on the channel. He says, Space Scam 2, Jake Eyes, USA Women's Soccer, US Men's Basketball, all flops, all make me happy. Yeah, I just found out yesterday about the US Men's Basketball losing to France. How is it that a team that should wipe the floor with everyone, because let's just be honest here, America created basketball, how is it that America is going to lose to any team, let alone the French team? Now, I don't know much about the French team, but maybe if they spent less time politicking and pushing their agendas, maybe if they spent more time practicing instead of counting their dollars, maybe they would have won easily. Snortapoopas Cuber, what's going on? Hello, humans and other quitters. Hello to you. Zachariah315, hello, welcome back to the chat. Andrew Hoyle, welcome. He's got a new color badge. Yeah, as you are a member for an extended period of time, your color badge changes. So thank you again for being a member. Beaver the Hobbit, welcome. Thank you very much for being here today. Indeed, Master of the Universe is it's getting destroyed by fans. And last night, shout out to RK Outpost, shout out to Ryan. He had an amazing stream. He had almost 2,000 people watching him. And a big part of that, I think, is because of, not just because he's an amazing person, but he also was talking about a subject that a lot of people care about. And that is, of course, the whole Masters of the Universe debacle with Kevin Smith just completely crapping all over the fans and not apologizing. Completely unapologetic in his crapping on the fans. And the fact that he even brought up the dirty little secret, which is, well, we got hundreds of millions of subscribers on Netflix, so, why would we care about this rabble-rousing group of hardcore fans? I think it's very eye-opening. Laura Story, what's going on, Laura? Thank you for being here. JKD Buck says that that he actually thought that there are some good elements of Master Universe. And he mentions Mark Hamill here. And from what I've heard, again, I've never watched it because I've never been a fan of it. I didn't really grow up with it. I have never really seen any full episodes. As I've said, the only connection that I have to Master of the Universe and to He-Man is the hilarious spoof they did about 10 years ago where they set the He-Man cartoon to a Hey Ya song. I said, hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey. That's the only reference. That's the only frame of reference that I have to it. But he mentions Mark Hamill, and from what I've heard from people who watched it, they said that it's not really a Skeletor. It's more of a Joker. He's doing kind of falling into his Joker voice, which, hey, maybe some people like, but I don't know. I don't really care much for the whole Master of the Universe stuff, and the only reason why, again, is because I don't have much of a frame of reference, if I'm going to be honest there. Punk Watto is a member. Good morning to you. Soul Extraction, who's a member. Hail to you. Thank you for being in the chat today. Nuanced Observer, welcome back. Laura Story has to say this. She says, Sarah Michelle Gellar was a horrible choice for Teela in Masters of the Universe. The woman who does Hera's voice is an actual voice actor and would have done better. Yeah, I always hate whenever these shows pick people because they are famous or because they have name recognition, or for whatever reason, instead of actually choosing people that fit the industry, instead of choosing people that are actually trained to do voice acting. I would kind of easily throw Freddie Prinze Jr. into the same discussion there, because even though one could argue, well, he did voice work for Rebels, that is true. But then you look to the work he did in the first episode of Bad Batch, and you're like, okay, this guy clearly doesn't have chops. He could do one voice that was essentially just his voice. That's not really voice acting. Like, the fact that he sounded exactly like himself when he was supposed to be a kid. Anyway. But yeah, I would not be surprised if it's a similar situation with Sarah Michelle Gellar, because I bet she sounded a lot like Sarah Michelle Gellar. And you're totally right. I wish that this is just beyond even Masters of the Universe, but I wish that these animated shows would choose people that are actually talented in the voice acting realm rather than just, oh, hey. JKD Buck, no, I will not do that. That's sick and disgusting. Get out of here with that nonsense. Dabman Walking 55, good morning to you. Welcome back to the chat. Thank you for being here. Listening mostly, he says. JKD Buck says, happy Monday. Happy Monday. Gary Banjo Sandwich. Thank you for tagging. He says, Limp Snake and a Flatball 2 films that failed to light up our summer movie passions. Yeah, and that's obviously a big topic for today's show, is that Snake Eyes, at least based on the initial numbers, they still haven't released any foreign numbers for that film. They haven't released a single foreign number for that film yet, at least according to the numbers. But even when I was checking Deadline yesterday, and they typically get access to all of this stuff, they didn't even mention how the film did overseas. So I have a suspicion that they're kind of holding off because the numbers are really bad. I mean, it's already bad enough, the numbers domestically, but yeah, it's not looking good. And a lot of people were leaving some comments on that video, the box office breakdown I did yesterday, and I think that they all made a good point. Even though I don't have a lot of knowledge of the G.I. Joe character, even though I'm not really a big fan necessarily of the G.I. Joe universe, not because I don't like it, just because there's no frame of reference for me. I didn't really grow up watching it, so I don't have as much attachment or passion towards that property. But I at the very least know that when it comes to Snake Eyes, and especially thanks to a lot of people who are explaining it to me, Snake Eyes, the whole concept of Snake Eyes, the whole concept of the character is that he is a mysterious character. You don't really know a whole lot about him, and that's kind of the allure of the character. And also, the character doesn't talk. So to have a movie where you're getting a background on that character and that character is talking, when the character's whole concept and whole cool factor is the opposite of that, I can see how on the face the movie is a failure, because it's going into something and presenting the character in a way that just completely deviates from the source material in almost every single way possible. And it's one thing if you're going to deviate from source material because you're trying to improve upon something, or because the technology doesn't allow you to follow the source material completely, because there's sometimes I think valid reasons to deviate from source material in certain ways. But when you're going to deviate so far in one direction, and then you're going to expect fans of the franchise or fans of those characters to come to see the films, I mean, you can't really be surprised when they don't. You can't really be surprised when you are a box office failure after just your first week of release. And this is not a shot against the movie Old by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, but the fact that Old beat Snake Eyes, the fact that Old was able to win the weekend against Snake Eyes and also the second weekend of Space Jam 2, I think speaks volumes to the current state of the box office, which is not very good. Anyone who's trying to say the box office is back and all this stuff, I remember, like, you know, when Godzilla vs. Kong was coming out and Fast 9 was coming out, there were people who were kind of like, oh yeah, look at these numbers. And it's like, you're not looking at the actual numbers though. You're not actually looking, where is the film making money? How much is the studio actually getting back? What about these smaller releases? People were kind of ignoring the fact that you had small budget films flopping. When you're in a session of the box office, when even small budget films can't make their money back, that's not a very good sign. When you're in a market, especially when a film like Black Widow can't make its money back, at least at this point, based on just box office numbers, not including any of the Disney Plus nonsense. I mean, that tells and speaks volumes to what's going on. And it's something that I think a lot of people just don't really want to acknowledge. Anyway, so hopefully, I saw that Tina had said about the volume being loud in the very beginning. Hopefully everything has obviously evened out a little bit. It's showing that way, at least on my end in OBS, but that first few seconds, it was like, woo! And I have no idea why that was. Punk Waddle, Odin goes back to school. Yes, indeed. We start next week. We have meetings, and then we have orientation with actual in-class or in-person students the last couple days of the week, and then we have our first full week on the next Monday. So yeah, last full week of summer for me. Gonna try and do as much as I can. I definitely want to be able to do a run by Best Buy at some point, because I probably gonna try and pick up some steelbooks, both for my own collection and also for some giveaways. I think I'm going to try and pick up some of those Sicario steelbooks, because those, again, look fantastic. Shout out Matthew Hyland again for sending me a copy. But I think I want to be able to use those for giveaways in the future. And obviously, there's a couple others that are going to be available too. One big one, of course, that I've covered on the channel is A Quiet Place Part 2 comes out tomorrow on physical media. And they actually have a really cool steelbook that I already pre-ordered. So very excited to be able to get my hands on that. And yeah. The R, what's going on? Welcome back to the chat. Pete Den, what's going on? Pete Den Cott, welcome back to the channel. Metalong, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate you. Punk Waddle, who is a member, says, when the Space Jam movie came out in the 90s, we had the glory of the original Dream Team to wallow in. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look to what Michael Jordan did and what the Chicago Bulls did for so many years, and you look at it and it's just so inspiring. There's nothing inspiring about LeBron James. LeBron James has become so enthralled and obsessed with politics that the ratings for the NBA are completely down, and a lot of it has to do with LeBron. So it's amazing how a lot of people will try and prop up LeBron as being some person that's going to get a lot of eyes on screen. And I'm not denying the fact that there are completely going to be fanboys of LeBron. I had one person who went after me in my video saying, you're just a hater. You're just a hater. You're like, yeah, you're right. I don't like people that shill for the CCP. You're right. I don't like people that shill for communist regimes that are responsible for the deaths of countless millions of people. And you might be saying, where are you getting those numbers from? Well, not only do we have, of course, the genocide going on in China, but then also remember that for the longest time they had, a one-child policy, two-child policy. They would force women to get abortions. They would force women to go through various operations so that they could not have children. So yes, they are responsible for the deaths of millions of people. So yeah, I'm going to have a problem with LeBron James. I'm going to have an issue with someone that's going to shill for that government, all the while attacking America. And don't get me wrong, I've got my own beef and my own issues, because America is by no means a Catholic nation. You could say it's a Christian nation. It's by no means a Catholic nation or a Catholic-friendly nation. if you actually look to the history and the development of the country. However, I'm going to have a bigger issue with LeBron James and a bigger issue with China when it comes to morality. Tube you over on Odyssey, thank you for being here, man. Light up that fire button if you don't mind. Remember, if you have a comment or question on any platform, you must put @Odin at the very beginning of the comment. @Odin. The only exception is if you are a member on the YouTube channel. Storm to Poop is Cuber. Says, maybe because they are whiny woke losers. Viva la France. It's kind of crazy to think about the fact that a lot of us are happy about the French team winning. When you think about the history of Americans' view of France, especially in more recent times, I think that kind of speaks volumes as to the current state of the country and also just how bad the politicking from these American basketball players has been. I mean, the NBA has been the worst out of all of them. The NFL has already been very cringeworthy, and other sports have too. Obviously, the women's soccer team has been pretty cringe and everything, but I think that the basketball situation has been at the absolute worst. There's no doubt about it. Not just because of the shilling for China, but also just because it's obviously its obsession with the incredibly political and the incredibly downright evil organization that is Black Lives Matter. And I'm talking about the organization there. Alrighty. Hound 3000, what is going on? Thanks for being here. Gary Banjo Sandwich tagged to say, Smith delivers a disaster of the streamerverse. Smith delivers a disaster of the streamerverse. Smith. Smythe? Smythe? I don't quite get that. I need some context there. JKD76. Wait, sorry. Kevin Smith. Okay, gotcha. Again, sometimes I need context because of the way my brain works, rather how my brain doesn't work completely. So I was just like, Smith, what does that have to do with Space Jam 2? It's like, oh, because that was when we were talking about Masters of the Universe. JKD says, agreed, Buffy, the not-so-acting choice for this show was admittedly annoying. And overall, generally, I think Sarah Michelle Gellar, I think that she is great still in that role as Buffy, and she's been fine in some of the other films that she's been watching. Random segue, I forgot who was the first person who recommended it to me, but I am about an hour left in a new film called Blood Red Sky. I'm loving it. Blood Red Sky is a lot of fun. It really doesn't focus too much on identity politics. There's a couple of moments where you're like, well, okay. But in general, it's actually a really interesting story. It's a story I'm glad I didn't do any research on before watching it, because like the whole concept and everything that gets revealed as the story goes on, you're like, oh. You think that it's just a typical hijacking of a plane film, and then you realize that it's a lot more than that, and you're like, oh, this is interesting. And the one downside is that one of the promotional images for the film kind of gives away that there's going to be a turn or a twist in some capacity, but you don't really find out much about it until about 30 to 45 minutes in. And by that time, you have a lot of like tension being built up. And I'm enjoying it so far. Punk Wad was a member, says, I didn't watch He-Man growing up, so maybe that's the reason. My favorite iteration of Skeletor was the first episode of Robot Chicken. May have seen that before. And again, I still, for me, my favorite rendition of that character is from the song parody. And he prays is the best. Oh my God, I pray. If you've never heard that song, I highly recommend it. It's hilarious. Daniel Roden, welcome. Let's see. Andrew Hoyle is a member. Says, Freddie Prinze Jr. also did a voice in the Mass Effect game. Awful character, too. Did I say pricks? Sorry, I meant Prince. Oh, I didn't even pick up on that first one. I just was reading it as the name of Freddie Prinze. Interesting. Yeah, so basically, when you say awful, do you mean that he was just doing his voice, which is not the same as voice acting? It's amazing. I'm going to voice act. Oh, what kind of character are you going to do? I'm just going to be myself. Oh. Brian Barth, welcome. Let's see. JKW76 says, watch Chico and the Man if you want to see Freddie Prinze Sr. Interesting. I never actually seen it. Speaking of which, Shout out to, I think it was Rosie G12. I don't see her this morning, but if you are seeing this on a rerun, if you're watching this back at 8 point or listening back, just let me know. But yeah, Tequila Sunrise came in. Haven't seen it yet, but it's interesting. It's also got a lot of really low reviews. Like, a lot of critics don't like this movie, so I don't really know much about it, other than the fact that it has a pretty awesome cast. It's kind of hard for me to think that this film isn't going to be good, because it's got Mel Gibson, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Kurt Russell in it. Anyway, so that's on the Discord. It's on. I am all over the place this morning. It's on the Plex server, so I'll be watching that at some point. But shout out to you. Thank you. Pretty sure it was Rosie G12. She typically is the one that sends me those classic films. Alrighty, Punk Waddle, who is a member, says people might go see one movie a weekend, and I doubt they will be going out to see the same one in the current state of things. Well, that's the thing, is that I can't think of a lot of films that are worthy of seeing more than once. You know, the ones that I've mentioned, you know, films like Nobody. I think Nobody was worth watching more than once in theaters. I think that A Quiet Place Part 2, to an extent, as well, was worth seeing more than once in a theater. But even A Quiet Place Part 2, I would say, I don't know necessarily about the rewatchability factor, or at least of seeing it more than once over and over again in a short period of time. It's a film that I think is good enough to where you would want to watch it again. I know that I do, but it's not a film like Nobody, where you're like, this is just fun, and I want to have fun all over again, you know? And it's obviously it's a play on the genre, I think. I think certain genres are going to be a lot more susceptible to being more enjoyable in a theater setting, you know? And so Nobody having that action element to it, and just fun action too, is going to be a film that a lot of people are going to want to see more than once in theaters. There really aren't a lot of films that fit that category. Black Widow was an objectively bad film. So I don't know why anyone would ever even think to put Black Widow up in the category. But there are some people defending it, saying, hey, well, you know, it's not that bad. It's like, no. It's not that it's not just a subjectively bad movie that I didn't enjoy. It's no, there's clear objective issues with that film. Clear objective issues. Andrew Hoyle says, my wife has just started her holidays from school. Ah, yes, the different school schedules around the world. JKD76, Snake Eyes. If he talks and there's an origin story, then you're watching Fake Eyes. There should always be a mystery. Well, that's just the thing, too, is that I'm okay in certain situations with characters that have mystery, having that mystery be explained at some point. Like, I do think that there is a time and place for that kind of storytelling. But it's very clear that that's not the case with Snake Eyes. I mean, it's one of those things where the whole concept of the fun of the character is that you don't know a whole lot about it. It's one thing if you're going to present a character, like, for instance, the film I just mentioned, Nobody. You know, you look to a film like that and you say, hey, if they did a prequel where they went into his time when he was, you know, full-out hitman, that could be interesting. That could be really cool to see. So I think it depends on the character. It depends on the genre. It depends on a lot of things like that. Or even A Quiet Place Part 2. I think one of the coolest things about the movie are the opening, especially, where you kind of get this prequel-esque shot where you get day one of the invasion of these aliens. And I just thought that was incredibly fascinating to see, and I actually really want to see more of that world, because it's just cool to see how these different worlds exist. So it depends. I think it depends on the character. It depends on a lot of those things. As JKD Buck says, Le Clown. Le Clown. All right. Yeah, someone mentioned about French fries. Yeah, I remember when French fries were freedom fries, because there was a huge thing. It was back during the early days of the war, either in Iraq or Afghanistan. And I remember it was that France had pulled out or weren't going to help. And so you actually had a phase in American culture when you had a lot of places renaming French fries to freedom fries. So the fact that we're now at the point where we're like, good on you, France, for beating Team USA in basketball, I find that fascinating. I really do. All right. JKD Buck tagged to say, what scares me is that the Uyghurs are the persecuted ethnic minority we are hearing about. Think about the ones we're not hearing about. Well, and that's the thing, JKD Buck. We know for a fact that there is absolutely Catholic persecution going on. Because if you're not a part of the official, notice what's wrong with this statement, the official Catholic Church of China, the one that's been okayed by the commies, unless you're a part of that church, you are persecuted. It is illegal to be a part of the underground Catholic Church in China. And then they're not getting any love. They're not getting any support. I mean, even the Pope himself made a deal with the commies. So they don't even have the support of the Holy Father. This is the time when the Pope, just like back during World War II, this is the time when the Pope needs to start putting out encyclicals in that language to say, we have your back. We are supporting you. We want all priests in this country to read this. But they're not going to do it. Because instead they took money. Instead, the Vatican was like, oh, we need money. Let's make a deal. It's disgusting. Taking it back, Sarah Michelle Gellar's voice for Tila was grating. She really sounded like a high school brat. Very disappointing. Imagine James Earl Jones voicing Pee Wee Herman. You'd be upset. Here's the thing. No. I wouldn't be, because that sounds amazing. And actually, we already had kind of a similar situation happen when they redubbed Pee Wee's voice in the original film of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, right? When it gets featured in the film and they change his voice, and it's hilarious. I think you should have flipped that. It would be like if you went to go see Star Wars and instead of hearing James Earl Jones' voice, you heard Pee Wee Herman's. That, I think, is the better dichotomy to mention. Gary Banjo Sandwich says, Smith Kevin is very forgettable, hence creating a bad show to validate himself. Pretty much. Bonemo over on D-Live, thank you for being here this morning. Thank you. Thunderduck tagged to say, hi there, guten Morgen. I miss the tone of the MCU in Phase 1 and 2, or 90s movies in general. I totally agree. I totally agree. It's really sad to see the current state of, especially cartoons. You know, even if you turn on for a second modern-day cartoons, they're just so bad. And it's not even necessarily that they're political, it's just that the animation style is just incredibly annoying, or is a part of this new style that actually, you know, not to throw SpongeBob under the bus, but SpongeBob really did start a problem in modern day cartoons for kids. Because if you actually pay attention to the way that show is shot, there's a lot of quick edits and quick cuts. And what people have found in doing research and studies on this is that there's actually been correlation between these shows that kids are watching and showing symptoms and signs of ADHD. So not having ADHD, that's something that you don't just randomly catch from watching a show, but it's the same thing we've seen with phones, right? What we've seen in the research done on phone use is that there are kids that don't have ADHD who are showing the signs and symptoms of it because of being obsessed and glued to their phones. Something similar was also seen with these television shows, because you had a lot of parents that were just letting their kids watch whatever they wanted, and a lot of these shows have so many quick cuts and random things happening that, again, it creates this scatterbrained outlook. Let's see. Alaric, welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. Andrew Hoyle then says, so the French got revenge for Space Jam getting rid of Pepe Le Pew. Pretty much. It seems like it. It's like, oh, LeBron, you want to shill for the CCP? Oh, LeBron, you want to be in a film that's going to do our boy dirty? Pepe Le Pew? Patui, I spit at you. We beat you now. Yeah, you could absolutely look at it that way. Thunderduck says, the Pope and the Vatican have nothing to do with being Christian. All this wealth, real estate, money, a bank, so much for giving. Well, again, obviously, there are parts of that I think are a bit more nuanced, because that's what they should be. I think that the current state of the pontificate, the current state of the Vatican absolutely fits that, how you describe it, but historically has been a lot better. Sora Poopus says, we always rename things for silly reasons. During World War I, we called sauerkraut Liberty Cabbage, and people were attacking dachshunds because we were at war with Germany. People were attacking dachshunds? That just makes me upset. Have you ever seen a dachshund? Have you ever seen a mini dachshund? They are so cute. My parents have mini dachshunds. I love them. How dare they? That just makes me upset. That just makes me sad. L.E. Yap, welcome to the chat. Alaric tagged to say, what are your expectations for the Eternals? I think it could be the worst box office of 2021, so Disney may only have it streaming on Disney+. I think that they will still put that out in theaters unless they delay it. They will either delay that movie or it'll just get released and we'll just have to watch as the film just completely gets annihilated. Let me try and see if I can find the Eternals. Let me see if I can do some initial analysis on that movie. Alrighty. Let's see. What is being reported here? Alright. So the film has a reported budget of $200 million. $200 million. The film is scheduled to be released November 5th of this year. So their mindset is, hey, the box office is going to be, getting back on track. Everything's going to be great. So far, that has really not really shown itself to be the case. They probably are also thinking, hey, we don't have any recognizable characters for most people that are normies of the, superhero genre. But hey, we've got people like Kit Harington and Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie and Kumail Nanjiani. People that some might recognize. So hey, we got that going for us. And we got Chloe Zhao, an Oscar winner. People will recognize her. The issue is that the people that's going to recognize any of the people that I just mentioned are not going to be enough, because you need that huge normie audience presence to make money in general, let alone during this time when a lot of people aren't really going to the theaters anymore. And especially when they're going to have some type of Disney Plus premium release, because they've already seen from what they did with Black Widow, that's the only way that they can defend their numbers, is that they can roll out a random, hey, we made $60 million on Disney Plus. Oh, do you have the proof? Do you have the receipts? What are you talking about? And then they never bring up their numbers again. It's like, really? You expect us to buy into this? You've never brought up those numbers before for any other film. You've had a Disney premium access movies, several of them at this point, never brought up your numbers before. But once Black Widow underperforms and you realize, oh, wait a minute, we put a lot of money into this movie, and oh, wait a minute, it's not making that money back, you start to realize. So looking at that, the fact that it cost $200 million to make, and the fact that you look to a film like Black Widow, which is going to make somewhere between 377 and 528 worldwide, and is going to either lose 73 million or make 16 million, and is currently at negative 111 million with 314.9 worldwide. Yeah, I would say that they should be very much concerned. Because if you think The Eternals is going to have a similar number at the same time in its release, I don't know what you're smoking. I really don't. I don't see it. And obviously, I always say this, that I don't get into the game of making long-term predictions as far as like opening weekends, because there's so much that could happen between now and then, right? The movie could be completely moved. The movie could end up having this incredible marketing campaign that ends up leading to it having more success than originally thought. There's a lot of things that could happen. I don't think they're going to happen, but they still could. You could still theoretically see those things happen. And let me try and see if I can find... so these are the projections for films that are set to come out for the rest of the summer season. So you got Jungle Cruise, which, again, they should be concerned, because I think that they're banking on this film being a huge international success, because they put, dear Lord, Disney is obsessed with this number. Disney is going to have so much financial loss this year when it comes to their films. But I think they think that Dwayne Johnson is going to be huge in their foreign market. Because according to Box Office Pro, which, I mean, whether you trust them or not, up in the air, Box Office Pro is saying, when that film comes out, Jungle Cruise is coming out this week, by the way, for those that are like, wait a minute, that film is coming out soon? Never would have guessed it. So Jungle Cruise, right now, the 3-day opening forecast that Box Office Pro has out is 20 to 40 million domestically. That's abysmal. 20 to 40 million. They expect the film to make 60 to 140 million by the end of its domestic run. This film cost $200 million. Even if this film somehow does incredibly well in China, they don't get a lot of that money back. Even if this film overperforms in other European countries, you cannot tell me that Jungle Cruise, which has Dwayne Johnson in it, which is projected to make nothing, bumpkin, is somehow going to be a massive hit overseas. I know Dwayne Johnson is a popular guy, but if he's not even making money domestically, where I feel like he's a lot more popular, I don't see how they make any money off of that movie. The Suicide Squad. I know that some people are excited about it. I'm not. Didn't like the first one. Don't like their approach with this one because I still have a lot of questions. What the hell is this movie? You've already had a film called Suicide Squad. This is now The Suicide Squad. Is it a sequel? Is it a prequel? Is it a continuation at all? You have some characters and some actors that are continuing on while others are... So it's more so from the DCEU perspective that I'm like, I don't care about this film. That movie, projected to do 35 to 60 million opening weekend. 75 to 150 million dollars. So it looks like yet another box office flop for Warner Brothers. You have that movie Free Guy coming also from Disney, which kind of looks interesting, I guess. 15 to 35 million is the projection for that. 40 to 95 million dollars completely in total. Let's see if they have anything going any further than that. It looks like they end at the end of August. So there are no projections yet for Shang-Chi. So based on these numbers, though, the fact that Jungle Cruise, which is the next big budget one from Disney, is only doing 20 to 40. Suicide Squad is 35 to 60. I can't imagine Shang-Chi is going to be that much higher than any of those movies, because you already have one coming from Disney proper and then another coming from Warner Brothers with established fan bases, by the way, at least when it comes to Suicide Squad. So Shang-Chi, I can't imagine that film doing anything. That's coming out September 3rd at this point. You have, between then, you have a couple of other big films. You have Venom 2 coming out, which Venom 1 was... Venom 2, based on the fact that you have films like and properties like Suicide Squad and Jungle Cruise from big studios with lots of money behind it, not doing anything, I don't see how anything makes money this year. I really don't. So I would not be surprised at all if you saw a shift in the release schedule for Disney when it comes to that movie. Because I'm trying to see about what is coming out around the same time or not. I'm not even seeing it on this list, though I know that it was just talked about. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, it's supposed to be November 5th of this year. There it is. So it's the only big one coming out. So you have Eternals coming out. The next week after the Eternals comes out, you have Ghostbusters Afterlife. Before it, you have films like Jackass Forever and Dune coming out a couple weeks before. So you could also see the box office being kind of crunched together. Top Gun Maverick's coming out November 19th. So yeah, I don't think any film is going to make money this year. If I had to make a prediction, I would say no film's making money this year. At least when it comes to like the big budget films. Because I have seen films make money this year, but not many. And the big budget films, it's very hard to see that. Jacques Lesuave, what's going on over on Odyssey? Tagged to say Loki/Black Widow was the final straw for me and the end of the unbroken run of MCU content. Won't be watching Feng Shui and the 12 Goblets of Fire or The Forgettables. Let it burn. Seriously. And you know what? I think all of them are forgettable. There's nothing about any of the trailers that have been released for those films that made me go, ooh, I want to see this. Like, unless you are just a blind MCU supporter, a diehard MCU stan, I don't see why anyone would look as a normie at those movies and say, I want to see that. Other than the people that are like it's the MCU, so it's got to be good, right? You know those people. It's the MCU, it's got to be okay, right? Sure. I just don't see it, though. Those are terrible numbers. I didn't realize the numbers for Jungle Cruise were that low in the projections. I didn't think they'd be great because it's based off of a ride that some people like. But for people like me, when I went to Disney World, I was always like, wait, you just ride around in a boat? No, thanks. I'd rather go on a roller coaster. Like that's just my thing. But you're like, oh, it's got Dwayne Johnson in it. It's got Emily Blunt in it. They're well-known, recognizable entities. Dwayne Johnson, right? Big. And here's the thing. There's some people, right, who still have this concept of stars resulting in money. Well, LeBron James has just completely destroyed that narrative. People would argue, and I think rightly so, LeBron James is an incredibly well-known entity for different reasons. A lot of people like him. A lot of people hate him. And yet, not making any money. This, I think, is going to be an example that Dwayne Johnson, as likable as he is by a lot of people, is not a box office guarantee. And hopefully, the whole concept of stars sell tickets goes away completely. There's just no way that anyone can hold on to that mindset. Scarlett Johansson, in a film that fans for a long time were clamoring for, is in a film that is not doing well financially. Especially for a Marvel film. So what my hope is that they realize at this point, and it should have already been realized, but I'm hoping this is the last straw for people to realize, oh, maybe we shouldn't spend $200+ million on films that feature big names. Maybe instead we should spend less money and actually spend more time and attention and money on getting the best writers in the business, on getting creativity back in Hollywood, on getting new and inventive stories, new and inventive worlds, instead of just revamping, recutting, rebooting, remaking everything. Or in the case of Disney, making movies out of every single one of your rides. How about we don't do that? How about we don't do that, Disney? But will they learn from it? Will this actually be the final straw for them? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Because there's been so much that has happened to them as a company over the last year and a half especially, and yet they continue to push forward. I don't think it's going to change. I don't. Michael Hickson, thank you very much for tagging me. He says, He says, you absorb a portion of what you eat, watch, hear, etc. Add on ADHD talk. Yes, thank you for the context there. And yeah, I totally agree. You really do see that. And you're seeing especially with kids as well. Jarkai, what's going on? As far as the word Pope goes, no. However, very clearly, St. Peter is given clear authority over the rest of the other apostles. And we see that most clearly, especially in the book of Acts. So, yes, it is in there, actually. Just not the word. That's why no one who actually reads scripture and knows history should ever be sola scriptura. Thunderduck says, what do you think of Joker getting a sequel, good or bad? I'm mixed on that one, because I like the first one. I thought the first one was really good. I enjoyed it heavily. You know, I don't like some of the people involved with the project, but not going to lie, it's an incredibly enjoyable film. It's a great character. It's a great rendition of the character. I like the fact that it's more grounded in reality. I do like that. Some people don't. I do. And so it'd be cool to see that universe continued. The issue I find is that I think at this point, there's no way the sequel could be as good. I don't think the sequel can be as good because you know that studio is going to get their hands all over it. They're going to say, ooh, we spent no money and got a huge return on our investment. Oh, let's make it even better. We know better, though. Well, let's put our hands on it now. We know what happens when studios come in and thinking that they can do better. It's not going to end up being good. Phonemo tagged to say, I kind of forget the Eternals was both a movie and was coming out. Agreed. And as someone, especially for me, who's not a comics person, who didn't grow up with them, from what I've heard, even comics fans are like, yeah, the Eternals were always kind of this random group, not the most popular series out there. Similar argument could be made, of course, for the Guardians of the Galaxy. However, the difference, I think, is that those are really cool characters that actually worked being adapted into a movie, and also it was incredibly successful and well made, well done first movie. Second one wasn't as good, but hey, kudos to the first one. But they're not the same company anymore. They're not getting the same writers as they were doing before. So it's yeah. Raj H, thumbs up, good sir. And Raj H, I of course did see your comment on Friday Night Tights, and I did tag you. But thank you very much for sending me Pizza Pete. Old school Pizza Pete. Shout out to Raj H. Good sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. Alrighty. Alien Ogre, what is going on? Welcome. JKDBack76 says, Black Widow can only be portrayed by a real Russian. Nick Nero, what's going on, dude? Welcome back. Punk Waddle, who is a member, says, selling a movie based on the actor hasn't been enough for a while, I don't think. No, it hasn't. It hasn't been enough for a while. A great example of that was Robert Downey Jr. in Doolittle. Guess what? That film did little. JKD Buck. Serious question. Do you think Disney is in trouble? I do. They've been in trouble for a while. They've been able to play it off. They've been able to convince investors that they're not in trouble. But just looking at the numbers, I'm like, I don't see how you don't see how they are in trouble. I don't see how you don't. I don't see how you don't see it. Because you look at Black Widow, right now, $100 million loss. That's going to change, but as of right now, $100 million loss. You look at Cruella. Let's see where Cruella is right now. Cruella is right now a negative $15 million loss. That film actually ended up making back some of its money. It actually overperformed in the legs. So that film, technically, by the end of its run, one could argue that that film actually made its money back. So, hey, Cruella, one bright spot, I guess. But then you look to the fact that they didn't spend nearly as much money on that movie as others, $100 million. I know that seems like, wait, not as much, it's still $100 million. Yeah, but Jungle Cruise got $200 million, as did a lot of their others. But you have bigger losses than that. Raya and the Last Dragon, negative $78 million. Soul, which I liked, negative $155 million. Onward, that was one of the first things to get hit by the pandemic, negative $220 million. Call of the Wild, which was under their brand, negative $123 million. Doolittle, let's go to that movie, negative $128 million. Starting to see a trend here, right? The last big success they actually had financially was Rise of Skywalker, which theoretically made $119 million in net gain profit, which is not as good in comparison to a lot of the other Star Wars films in the franchise, but hey, good for them. But as you can see, they have massive financial losses in almost every single release that they've had. The one exception, oddly enough, is Cruella. And even that one, you're like, I don't know about it. Because also, if I'm not mistaken, and I very well could be, I want to say that number is not completely accurate only because of the fact that I believe Cruella did get a China release, which does have an impact. It did. 24 million. So it got 25% of that. So even such, the film is going to be maybe financially successful. But it's slowed down at this point. So that would, again, you'd have to make some leaps and bounds there. Not much, not too long, but still. Let's see. Over on Odyssey, Old Prate. Is that how you say the name? Old Prate. He says, I see similarity with Hollywood and the game industry. They are no longer creative and follow a known formula which used to work well, but just bored the audience. I think it's less so in the game industry, to be honest, though, because I look to what's been released the last couple years, and even though I never played it, you have the entire Ghost of Tsushima world that looks amazing. I remember watching the playthrough of that game, and it looks fantastic. So there are still some good games getting released, just like the movie industry, too. There's some good, but the difference is that Ghost of Tsushima was obviously a big budget game, and it was good. You don't really see the same happening in the world of films. You don't see a lot of good big budget films, typically, in modern Hollywood. Jacques Lesuave says, given the attention paid to issues of mental health in Joker, you think there's an interesting story to be told about toxic or abusive relationships using Harley and Joker. You know what? If they are going to go ahead with a sequel on that, I would not be surprised if they decide to go in that direction. The issue that I have is that the DCEU is such a confusing mess, because you have so many different films and so many different worlds portrayed by so many different people and ideas and concepts. It just doesn't make any sense. It is incredibly confusing. Gormakal79, welcome. Good sir. Thank you for being here today. Gary Banjo's Sandwich tagged to say Jungle Cruise needed Tom in it to get bums in seats. Could you imagine Jungle Cruise, but Tom Cruise is the star? Even then, it still wouldn't have done it. Even then, it didn't. Phonemo tagged to say, I'm actually looking forward to Jungle Cruise. I enjoyed his 2 Jumanji movies. Here's the issue. If you think it's going to be the same, look to the trailer. It's not. So no, I'm not looking forward to it at all. Andrew Hoyle says, I saw as much as I'm going to see as Jungle Cruise when I watched the trailer, and that was about 3 minutes too much. Agreed. Oh, wait a minute. This is your boat? Only you can fix it? I'm going to kick it. I got whammon powers. Oh, look at that. The engine's working. So stupid. Tina says, Mead said that The Rock's movies that are ensemble movies such as Jumanji are the ones that are hits. The ones where he's pretty much solo are mediocre at the box office. Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting take, I would say, but I think that's the case with a lot of ensemble films. But even then, it's not just the ensemble. It's not just the actors that are in the film. Does it look entertaining? Because for the Jumanji films, a big part of that was word of mouth. People said, hey, this is actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And also, too, there was actual good comedy in the trailers being presented as well. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it, too. But, yeah, I would argue that the age of the star having an impact is far gone. JKD Buck says, Jungle Cruise, more like Junker Cruise, it will flop. Based on those estimates, that's a foregone conclusion at this point. That it's going to flop. The question is, how much? Gormakyle79, who's a member, says, Halloween Coles Odin, that's my favorite franchise, October 15th. And Dune, Halloween Coles? Oh, Halloween Kills, sorry. Halloween Kills, gotcha. Favorite franchise for him. Yeah, I didn't like the last Halloween, though. So I don't have a lot of high hopes for Halloween Kills, except I will say the trailer is pretty fun. Didn't like the latest Halloween film they did, but Halloween Kills trailer it is actually a pretty fun trailer. And yeah, Dune. I'm excited for Dune as well. I hope Denis Villeneuve does not let me down. Just like my nose is letting me down right now. Sorry for the nasally voice this morning. Let's see. Daniel Thorne tried to say, her Jungle Cruise was bad. It mimics concepts of indie and Dead Men Tell No Tales. Props are easily just like from those 2 movies. Well, can't say I'm surprised. And hey, that's just what happens. That's just what happens when you decide to put out a movie that people don't really want. I don't remember people clamoring for, you know what we need? You know what my life needs right now? My life needs a film based off of this random ride at Disney World called Jungle Cruise. Don't remember the clamoring for that. I don't remember that being a thing. Andrew Hoyle, exactly. The meh Eternals. Pretty much it. Daniel Thorne tagged to say, I'm surprised Green Knight is getting good reviews. Yeah, I really don't know much about it, to be honest. I haven't seen or watched the trailer for it. So I don't know if that would be surprising or not, to be honest. Mike Jackson, what's going on, good sir? Thanks for being here today. Gormakal79 is a member, says, all I care about is Halloween Kills, but I'm not as excited about it as I was Halloween 2018. And I think a big reason is because Halloween 2018 was for me a bit of a letdown. But I will say, as I'd mentioned earlier, I do think the trailer for Halloween Kills is pretty cool. Michael Hicks attack to say, scripts sell tickets, not stars, not CGI, not practical effects. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. The things, when I'm at a movie and I'm seeing a trailer, I'm going to be brought in if it's a good trailer. And what makes a good trailer interesting storytelling, interesting visuals, interesting concepts and lines. It's not necessarily the actor. There are some times when the actor does an impact, right? Whenever I see Jake Gyllenhaal, I know that there's people who are like, it's not how you pronounce the name. I don't care. It's how everyone pronounces it, except for that random clip that you found. Get over it. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. But anyway, Jake Gyllenhaal, whenever I see him on screen, I'm like, okay, I'm interested. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, similar way. Not as much these days, but typically I'm like, oh, I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt as far as his performances go. So, hey, I'm interested in this. Sometimes it can be the directors too, right? Oh, it's a new Scorsese film. That's cool. But those are very, as you can tell from my tone, I think, that those are not very common. It's very rare that it will interest me or intrigue me just because of that. Because at the end of the day, if the film looks terrible and if the idea is not compelling, then I will gladly step out. I will gladly be like, no thanks. JKDX76, who's a member, says, it's sad that it's taking Hollywood 25 years to figure out that good stories put butts in seats. We've known forever, but Hollywood is still figuring it out. Well, it's because, remember, they had a long run. Think about how many Marvel films have been put out in the last 10 years. Think about how much financial success a lot of these franchises have had. They put barely any work into those. A lot of them, at least. And so they are still used to having guaranteed success. To say, hey, it's a Marvel film. It's going to be successful. That is the mindset that they still have because, hey, for years that was true. Now things are completely different. And it's taking them a very long time to figure that out. Trent Johnson, welcome back to the chat. Glad to have you here. Appreciate it. Ed Snark, welcome back to the chat. Nico Blue Forky, what's going on, dude? Glad to see you actually live in the chat. He says, did little, good pun. I'm glad that you appreciated that, good sir. I'm glad that you appreciated that, and thank you for the super chat, man. Yes, do little, did little. You're welcome. You are welcome. All right, let's see. Thunder Duck tagged to say, will the MCU ever admit defeat and loss that they effed up? Probably not. They won't. Look at what's going on with Star Wars. The fact that those films still made money, they're like, what do you mean we lost half our audience? What do you mean we're not in a good state? All I'm seeing is the raw profits. What do you mean we didn't make as much as the OG trilogy? And again, they don't care. Because all they care about is money. And then when the money's not coming in, they just go back to, we don't care. So it's like interesting how they care about the money in certain circumstances, but then in other circumstances, they're more concerned about their messaging. And it's like eventually you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that your messaging is destroying your audience demographic, and eventually you're going to have no one left who's going to actually be willing to spend money. Alaric says, if the Eternals is between Dune and Top Gun, that could likely have moviegoers walking past the Eternals. Also, the Eternals cast are in character roles that fans won't recognize or understand. Exactly. As a normie myself of the comic book world, at least, when I saw the trailer for the Eternals, I was like, who are these people? I have no idea who these people are, and I don't care. And I imagine that there's probably a lot of people that feel the same way, who saw that trailer and say, I don't know. And they'll skip it. Because here's the other thing. Not every Marvel film is a guaranteed billion-dollar hit. Talk to Ant-Man. I actually liked the first Ant-Man film. And guess what? The film didn't make a lot of money in comparison to a lot of the others. Let me pull up my Marvel. So yeah, you have films like Incredible Hulk, for instance, made only $316 million. Really their only financial loss. You had Thor make $513. Captain America: First Avenger, $423. These are all adjusted for inflation. Let's see. Ant-Man 1 made $562 million. Let's see. Doctor Strange, New World, new film. Doctor Strange, $724 million worldwide. Think that's something worth talking about. Ant-Man and the Wasp made $637 million. Obviously, as far as the new characters are concerned, as far as like new films, Black Panther made 1.3 billion, but remember, Black Panther was featured in previous films, so you were actually did have a build up to those characters. But when you look to films where it's like brand new character that has had really no setup whatsoever, the films don't reach a billion. Even Guardians of the Galaxy, as successful as it was, didn't crack a billion. It was 838 million back in 2014. So you look to these films. You look to even Captain America Winter Soldier, which is arguably the best of the MCU, made $775 million. So the point is that the concept that every Marvel film is going to make a billion is actually not based in reality. When you actually look at the numbers, they have a lot more films under a billion than they have over a billion. Their first billion-dollar film was The Avengers in 2012 at 1.6 billion. Iron Man 3 then made 1.3 billion. Most people look at that and say, yeah, but a lot of other reasons as to why that film made as much as it did. Age of Ultron made 1.5 billion. Awful film. Civil War made 1.2 billion. Think about all the characters that were in that movie. Black Panther made 1.3. Avengers Infinity War made $2 billion. Again, it was the culmination. They were able to will Captain Marvel to 1.1 billion by putting it out very, very close to Endgame, which made, remember, $2.8 billion. And then the last one that I had marked down was Spider-Man Far From Home, which made 1.1 billion. But remember, that was also in conjunction with Sony. So, again, I mentioned you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 movies, less than half of all of the movies that have been released in the MCU, including the ones that feature the collaboration with Sony with Spider-Man. Less than half have made over $1 billion. So even the concept itself and the belief that these films are guaranteed billion-dollar movies is just not true. And when the fact remains is that they're putting more and more money into these movies to where you need to make close to $600 million just to break even. If they think they're going to do that on brand new properties in a market like this, good luck. Over on Odyssey, Prate, thank you very much for the donation over there, the hyper chat. He says, I'm thinking Top Gun might make some money for them, given the demographics it targets. First impression with the trailer might impact that, though. Here's the thing, though. I'm excited for Top Gun. I think the trailer looks fantastic. Those shots in the jets look amazing. It's going to be a visual feast. Any person that's a fan of cinematography is going to want to see that movie. But just listen to what I said. Fans of cinematography. How many people actually fit that category? Fans of the Top Gun franchise. You might have a bunch of them come, especially with Tom Cruise being in the film and also this connection with Goose as well. I think that all of those things are going to bring some people out. Do I think right now that movie is going to be a huge financial hit? I don't. I'm going to be honest. I don't. And it comes down to the fact that it's going to be a big budget film and the audiences are not back. Even the experts themselves say, hey, we're not going to be back until, and notice the wording, we won't be back till 2019 levels until 2023 or 4. That's a long ways away, especially in the release calendar, especially if you are a studio like Disney. It's a lot of movies coming out not being back at the 2019 levels. And if a film like Black Widow isn't going to be an instant financial hit, good luck, Shang-Chi. Good luck, Eternals. And everything else coming out. Jacques Lesuave tagged to say, Jungle Cruise might be okay in the same way the Tomorrow War is. Not great, but acceptable because it's not woke. Hopefully. But yeah, box office success versus streaming success are two different things. Here's the thing. I don't know what about the Jungle Cruise trailer makes you think that it's not going to be woke. As I mentioned, you have a strong female character that kicks an engine after the comment is made, only I can fix the engine, and she kicks it, and it starts working. So that in and of itself is already a bit of a concern there. And here's the other thing, too. I'm so tired of people bringing up Tomorrow War. It's not a good movie. Just because it's not woke does not mean that we should praise it. Oh, it's not woke, everybody! Yay! No. It's not a good movie. We need to expect and ask for more. We need to ask for good films that are not woke. Not really poorly executed films like Tomorrow War, and what I suspect Jungle Cruise to be as well. And also, I would still say jury's out on whether that film is not going to be woke or not. Just saying. It is a film coming out directly from Disney, so why would it not fit into a lot of what they've been pushing in their other films and other franchises? I have no hope for Jungle Cruise as far as the story being good at all. But yeah, we need to start asking for more when it comes to the films, because it not being woke is not good enough. Punk Waddle, you have a good day at work. Snortapoopus Cuber says, if I want to see a movie about a Jungle Cruise, I'll watch African Queen. Yeah, I know that people have made comments about that before. Nick Nero tagged to say, it's sad that they keep making garbage when there's good writing out there, and they just don't care or want to pay real writers. It used to happen in corporation world, hire college grads for half the money. Exactly. And you see that happening. Who are the directors that they're choosing for these big budget films? People that have almost no credits to their name at all. And even though I think that Chloe Zhao is probably one of the more talented of the directors that they've gotten recently, she still has to deal with a major studio. She still has to deal with a major studio, and also, as I mentioned, with characters that no one cares about. But yeah, it's interesting how they continue to push these things. Edgy Power, what's going on? Thank you for being here. Nico Blue Forky says, still sleepy, Tina. Coffee time. Yeah, a lot of people love that. Alex, what's going on, dude? He heard Dune, and he's like, I have awoken. Gromacon79, who's a member, says, at least Emily Blunt is a fair pick because she's been great here lately. I mean, A Quiet Place 2, I liked Halloween 18 at first, but just like every movie made today, the rewatchability sucks. I agree with that last comment especially. And yeah, I don't have an issue with Emily Blunt, but here's the thing is that she's also done bad movies too. She's not a guaranteed success. I overall wasn't a huge fan at all of Mary Poppins. And even though she was okay as a choice for the role of Mary Poppins, she's no Julie Andrews. Talk about movies that no one asked for and shouldn't have been made. So, I mean, yeah, I think that she's fine as far as her acting ability is concerned, but that requires her to have a good director. Her husband is a great director. I'll put that out there right now. Quiet Place 1 and 2, solid direction. John Krasinski, great job. Which is why I think she gives such good performances in those films. But she needs a good director. She's kind of similar to Brie Larson, I think, in that way. But to a lesser extent, I think that Emily Blunt has a lot better raw acting ability than Brie Larson could ever dream to have. But they both need directors to get a performance out of them, if it's going to be good or passable. It's just my thought. 91 Moon Knight, what's going on? Welcome to the chat. Appreciate you being here. Slicer Neons tagged to say, so glad Sucker Punch broke the mold. Love their Sly Cooper games too. Very excited to play Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, at first when I saw that, I was like, we're talking about the movie? I was like, what? What do you mean Sucker Punch? And then I was like, oh, the studio that made the game. Okay, that makes more sense. Zelina Star Wars, what's going on? Says, good morning. Happy to finally catch a live show. Well, thank you for being here. Yeah, we'll go on for another 20 minutes or so. Thank you again for being here. Make sure y'all smash that like button wherever you are. 77 people watching on YouTube. Smash that like button, please. It means a lot. And light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey as well. And share the stream if you're having fun. Whew. Let's see. Slasher Dion's. Again, thank you for that comment. Let us see. William Davis, welcome to the chat. Phonemo tagged. Say, I'll see Eternals if they answer the question of why they didn't get involved with Thanos and let 50% of the universe die. It's kind of the same similar issue with Loki as well, where it's like, you're telling me that all of these things had nothing to do with the universe, or rather, all of these things were supposed to have happened, including the Thanos stuff. Here's the other issue. In Loki, it is revealed that this guy at the end of time is just that. He's a guy. He's just a human. He is just a regular person with no powers. He just has technology and is smart. So you're going to tell me that that guy is going to let Thanos snap half of the world out of, half of the universe out of existence, which would mean, if, again, we're using logic, which we know that Marvel doesn't use at this point anymore, but that would mean that because he's a human, that he would also be fair game. That would mean that there's a 50-50 shot that that dude gets wiped out. So, again, it doesn't make... It's such a mess. It's such a hot mess. Everything they've done with time travel. And now you have, of course, the new Doctor Strange film that's going to come out, which is going to be all about the multiverse of madness. Oh, great. You're going to make things even more complicated. And this is something that I argued for months ago. I think the direction they're going, especially based off of the terrible storytelling they had in Endgame, especially when it comes to time travel, I think it's going to leave so many people confused, especially if they start bringing in multiverses and bringing in different renditions of characters and everything. People are going to be so confused because I don't think they're going to handle it right. I don't think they're going to land it. If they were going to land it, hey, fans would probably love it. But I think they're going to make it a giant muddy mess. And how do I know this, or why do I suspect this? Well, look at everything they've done. Endgame sucked. Loki, time travel world, time travel nonsense, timeline stuff sucked. Everything they've done with time travel so far has sucked. So why would I think the Multiverse of Madness would be any different? Or any of the other films that they're going to have. Eternals obviously is going to be dealing with time travel in some capacity as well. So I think it's going to lead to, but the point I was making was, it's going to lead to so much confusion that even normies are going to say, I have no idea what's going on anymore. And when you start to create that level of confusion amongst even normies, that's when people stop going, because they say, why would I want to watch this? I'm so confused. I have no idea what's going on. Man. Andrew Hoyle, who's a member, says, if Captain Marvel legitimately made over $1 billion, then I'm Mary, Queen of Scots. Well, here's the thing, Andrew Hoyle. Like, I still say the film, say the film made legitimately $1 billion. Now, remember, when it comes to the money being released and the numbers being released there, we do always have the China question. That's the only place where I think there's any question of legitimacy. Because obviously it's run by communists. So I think that's completely logical to have a question about anything dealing with that. But I'm sorry, people still buy into the nonsense of they bought tickets. They bloated the numbers by buying tickets. They faked the number. I'm sorry, there's no actual logic there. But we have the receipts. We have images of theaters that were empty. It's like, yes, of specific theaters that were empty. We had entire rows that were blacked out. Yes, because sometimes theaters do that. Every single argument that was made to try and pretend like there was this giant conspiracy of Captain Marvel in the United States and other European nations, I was like, no, there's no logic there at all. Don't buy into that. That's ludicrous. So I still do. That is just not based in reality at all. Now, again, if you want to talk about the money that was made by that movie in China, that's a discussion I'm willing to have. Why is that different? Again, because it's run by communists. So why would I believe anything that they or the companies that they own have to say, especially when it comes to the reporting of various numbers? But let's go ahead and let me try and pull up this real quick. Again, it made $702 million overseas. In China, it supposedly made $153.8 million. That's almost 2 to 3 times. It's 3 times as much as it made in the next largest nation as far as the international box office is concerned, which was the UK, where it made $51 million. So yeah, I think that number is absolutely suspect. Suspect. And obviously that's enough to bump it below $1 billion. But yeah, as far as the conspiracy of the seats and everything like that, I didn't buy it when people were saying it. I don't buy it now. There's too many ways to be able to explain away all the conspiracies that were popping up. I remember I was one of the few people that was fighting all that conspiracy nonsense when it was popping up. Because I was like, have y'all ever worked at a theater before? Have y'all ever gone into the mind of a person running a theater? Do you understand how these things work? And clearly that was not the case. And a lot of bad opinions came out because of it. Anyway. So I think it did make $1 billion. The only question of legitimacy has to do with the China number. But that's the case for every single movie, no matter what. Because again, communist. JKMX76, Cincinnati had a small family-owned place called Jim Dandy's, had awesome barbecue. Don't mention barbecue right now. Getting hungry already. Andrew Hoyle. The Tomorrow War is really triggering for Odin. And it's not that the movie itself is triggering, because to me, the movie is just so bland. It's so forgettable that it's good. And that's the other issue. It's so forgettable. No one's going to talk about it in several years. And yet everyone's acting like it's a godsend. Oh, but it's not woke. There's other films that have come out this year that are not woke, that are actually good. And I don't remember people talking as lovingly about it. But I think that people's love for Chris Pratt especially blinded them. Because everyone's argument was, but Chris Pratt, he's one of the good ones, and we need to support him. And it's like, okay. All right. If that's what you want to do, feel free. Do not correlate that and do not try and spin that to say that this is a good movie. Please. Please don't do that. That was the triggering thing for me. Was people trying to spin it as it being a good movie. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not. Stop trying to make fetch happen. Thunderduck says, you don't dare mock Age of Ultron. I love it. I thought it was going to be darker in tone based on the trailer. Oh, come on, dude. Rewatch Age of Ultron. Actually, don't rewatch Age of Ultron. But if you really like it as much, rewatch it with take off the rose-tinted glasses and you'll be like, ooh, especially the cringe-worthy sequence of them fighting in the woods is some of the worst CGI I've seen in the entire MCU. It's so bad. Zelina Star Wars says, for Jungle Cruise, Emily kicking the engine reminds me of the old movies. Yeah, I could see how that could totally be understood, but when you understand it in the modern context of 2021, you're like, okay, big buff guy can't fix his own engine, but smaller woman can kick the engine and it works. If this was made back in the 1940s and 50s and was a screwball comedy, hey, I think that would be totally fine. But being made in 2021 with the current era of identity politics, I don't trust it. I do not trust it at all. Phonemo. Black Widow is going to be released on physical September 14th. Seems damn quick to me. It does and it doesn't. It does because the film realistically just came out. It doesn't because, remember, this film has also been delayed. So that means that they've had this film ready to go, which probably means that they were like, all right, well, since we're going to be delayed, we might as well stay on track or keep going with our physical release to get that stuff ready. Because A Quiet Place Part 2, for instance, it comes out tomorrow on physical media. And that film didn't come out too long ago in reference to how usually there's a lot more length of time between it. So Disney's probably thinking about, hey, we need to make as much money on this as possible. So we're going to put this out as quickly as we can. We're going to then put this out on Disney Plus Premiere to try and make as much money from idiots that want to spend that kind of money on this movie as possible. We want to make as much money from physical media while the iron's still hot is their mentality, even though it's like iron hasn't really been hot on this movie. And you're going to see that happen with a lot of studios this year. So it seems like it's a quick turnaround, but then remember the film's been delayed for as long as it has, and then it makes more sense. Andrew Hoyle says, Brie Larson doesn't need a good director. She just needs a good varnishing. Oh, it's terrible. JKD76, the social media is now out carrying the water for Masters of the Universe. Just saw a headline which mentioned perceived female focus. Oh, Lord. Perceived female focus? You kill off the main character. And then you focus on the whammons for most of the episodes. I haven't even seen the show, and I know that that's what they do. So it's like, how is that not? Not to mention the fact that the dude lied to the fans and has now put the blame back on the fans. River the Hobbit tag to say, are you excited for the new Ridley Scott movie called The Last Duel starring Matt Damon? I haven't seen the trailer for it. Matt Damon. I hope it's a good Ridley Scott. Remember that Ridley Scott can make good movies and then he can make not so good movies. So I hope that it is one of his good ones. Alrighty. Not sure. Games Repository, welcome back. Appreciate you being here. Luke Zilla says, heard Snake Eyes only made $4 million in the actual numbers. Where are you hearing that? Because if you can tell me where to find that as a source, one, that's terrible. Two, I want to be able to have an official... I want to be able to update my official numbers on that movie because I'm waiting still on that. CC Thorne tagged to say, morning dude, always got Pratt's back. Thought he would have made a good replacement for Indiana Jones. Yeah, I mean, again, if you want to support him, that's your right. It's your money. It's your money to do that. But it's not a good movie. Old Prate says, I've only recently come across the movie Rear Window from the 50s. Yes, I know, shocking, but it was one of the best shows I've seen in a long, long time. Would be nice to see well-written films again like this and Vertigo, etc. Yeah. I mean, it would just be great to have anything Hitchcock or similar to Hitchcock. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. We really aren't there anymore, unfortunately. ZK Man, what's up? Says, I walk in just as people are trying to trigger Odin. Good morning to you. Phonemo tagged to say, yeah, that makes sense for the release of physical time frame. Don't think of delays playing a part. Yeah, people often forget about that. Let says, if Odin gets any more triggered, the current administration will ban him for 2A violation. Lord. Alaric says, thanks for the movie reviews. It really helps sorting out Hollywood nonsense. No problem, dude. I should be doing a movie review on Blood Red Sky. As I said, it's a newer film that's been released. Right now it's on Netflix, and it's pretty good. I'm liking it so far. About halfway through. All right, it's slowing down a little bit, so we'll go ahead and start to wrap things up. Rusty Shackelford, Matt Damon. Thunder Duck says, I am so offended right now. You don't like Age of Ultron that I will unsubscribe and never watch you again. Scarcasm off. Well, I appreciate the scarcasm. But yeah, I guarantee you that there's people like that out there. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. All right, anyway, thank y'all so very much for y'all's love and for y'all's support this morning. If you're watching still on Odyssey, make sure you light up that fire button before y'all head out. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button before you head out. Really does help and mean a lot. Again, thank you very much for being here this morning. Still had 78 people watching. Awesome. Again, we'll have one more Good Morning Asgard stream this summer on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. Where's the trigger? Yes, exactly. Rachel, where's the trigger? But yeah, we'll have a final Good Morning Asgard stream on Wednesday. And be on the lookout for some new videos and reviews. I'm going to try and see Pig this week. I'm going to try and see Old this week. Maybe some others to tear them apart. Some newer films that have come out that are not very good. If you do want to follow me on any of the various social media platforms or support the channel, check out the top link in the description. It will bring you to what's called Willow, which is also the name of my dog. But basically, it's just a compilation of all of the different places that you can follow me and support me. And so if you want to check those out, please do. If you have questions as far as social media accounts go, it has everything that you could ever possibly ask about me and where to follow me and how to support me, etc. So go check that out if you don't mind. And before I head out, I'm going to shout out all of my members who are at the Army of Asgard level and above, as it's part of the perk of being at that level on YouTube. So a huge shout out to Gonzalo Bergali, Soul Extraction, Nico Blue Forkey, George Moilo, Mondo Spieler, Grimm's Math, Riff Magos, Wicked Plumber, Sean McD, Gomer Kyle 79, Your Muslim Uncle, Kara Tharp, Dadman Walkie 55, M Tack Shark, Forever Sci-Fi, Rosie G12, Andrew Hoyle, Orange at Reviews, Adam Avery, Jay Stowe, and Aiden Vickery. Thank you all very much. You have been fantastic. Thank you again for all the love and support on whatever platform that you are watching on. Thank you. JKD Buck, thank you, man. Andrew Hoyle, Tina, Avader, Surge, Nuanced, Observer / Neon Snore, Poopus Cuber, Dabin Wonka 55, Hound 3000, Soul Extraction, All of you, thank you so very much. Also, a huge shout out to Tina B. Thank you for being here, Empress of the Universe, modding this morning. Also, shout out to Laura for being here as well. I assume that she's still awake, maybe just hanging back a little bit. I don't know. But Laura, thank you for being here earlier. I saw that you were in the chat earlier, so thank you very much. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to go now and have a second breakfast as the good hobbit that I am. And and then also, if you are a Locals Patreon Subscribe Star YouTube member at the Keeper of the Bifrost level and above, part of the perks for that is access to a podcast that I do with John the Flickpick Flickinger. We are finally recording that podcast today, if, of course, John wakes up. It has been delayed because John has been moving, and so it's been hell trying to get him to schedule this, as it is usually every single month. Much love still to John. I'm going to still throw some shade at you, though, for always backing out and never being ready. But anyway, so we should be filming that today at around 11 a.m. So be on the lookout for that to be posted today as well. So there will be an audio version of that posted and also a video portion as well, depending on the platform. Yeah. So again, thank you all very much for the love and support for any members over there. And also, because I did not update the outro yet, I did want to shout out, I have 2 new supporters over on Locals. So I want to make sure I'm able to shout them out. The one big issue with Locals is that they put every single person together in the same area, whether they're, and also the fact that a member is someone that just is a follower, and that a supporter is in a different category. But let me go ahead and shout out my newest supporters over there, and that's Cat's App and The Real It. So thank you, The Real It and Cat's App, for becoming my newest supporters over on Locals. And I will try and add that to the end of the video at some point, or the end of the Patreon video, shout out video today. But anyway, you guys are all amazing, beautiful people. Next stream for me is going to be tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time for the One Man Low Council. Thank you all for your love and support. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my July Patreon and Subscribe Star members: Andrew Hoyle, Biffer the Hobbit, Brian P., Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Laura the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina B, and Tina Bojan. Thank you all very much for supporting me over on Patreon, and also to my Subscribe Star members: Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, J. Rod the Beer Guru, and ZK Man. And I also want to make sure to shout out my Locals members. I am now available over at locals.com, and I've got 2 monthly supporters over there. The first of my local supporters is Goblin Squatch. Shout out to you, good sir. And also, I now have a second supporter over on locals.com, and that is Robert Barnes. Shout out to both of you very much. Thank you very much for supporting me on that new platform at the Keeper of the Bifrost level. If you want to find out more information about that, go check out my Locals page. You can find the link in the description, and it tells you everything that you would get in that Keeper of the Bifrost level, which is right now the only level available on that platform. And I also want to make sure to shout out any new Patreon members, and for right now, I want to shout out Mondo Spieler, who is my newest member over on Patreon. Thank you all very much for being here today. And if you want to have your name shouted out at the end of every single live stream and video on the channel, please make sure to check out the links in the description of ways that you can support me over on Patreon and Subscribe Star as well. It gives you access to things like giveaways of Blu-rays, 4Ks, and digital codes. Also, access to a podcast that I do with John the Flickpick Flickinger where we have a lot of fun. We also answer Q&A questions as well. And also you might get access to the Chosen of Valhalla level, which gives you access to a once-a-month podcast exclusively where I bring on you to the main channel with everyone else who is at the level, and we all just talk about movies, pop culture, and tons of fun stuff like that. And also, of course, Tina, who is the Empress of the Universe, is going to give us tons of reviews of movies and also maybe a couple of awesome rants here and there as well. So if that sounds fun to you, make sure you go ahead and check out those links. Again, you're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.